Hey, ever thought about making your own podcast? Well, now you can with the Anchor app. Anchor comes with all the tools you need to make your podcast the way you want it. You can edit your shows on any phone or computer. They will distribute your podcast so it can be heard on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And the best part about it, you get paid when people tune in to listen to you talk about any topic you love to talk about. Download the Anchor app today.
Look, deep shot down the field, too wide. Hilton, he's got him! Hilton on his feet, 5, end zone! Touchdown! 68 yards!
Shackles on my feet, you broke the heart and now I'm free, yeah. Even in the darkest times, you kept your light on me, yeah. Got the memo, read the message, found my purpose, found my method. Only L I took was less.
Welcome back to another edition of the Underdog Sports Podcast, guys. It has been a little bit over a month since I've recorded. I believe that was episode 57. It's been a little bit over a month. I have been working on, trying to improve this channel, improve this podcast, and I truly hope I'm doing that for you guys. I truly hope I am. And obviously the reason why I'm here is because football is back, guys. Officially or non-officially, the Texans and the Chiefs, they reported to training camp. They had their rookies report, and now it's the Colts' turn for their rookies. Now that goes on, I believe, tomorrow, the 22nd. Okay, it's the rookies that are going to report. Now, let's go ahead and dive in here because there's some changes, there's some rules, being implemented within the NFL in their training camp system. So, let's go ahead and hop into it. A couple of the talking points was the first one is, the changes to preseason training camp, all that stuff. So even though the Colts rookies are supposed to be reporting tomorrow, I believe that they are already there. In fact, I know they are there already because I believe, I'm not sure if it's just for the Colts, but the rookies were told to get there 2 days early to get tested. So that gives them a couple days to go ahead and get ahead of it and see who's positive, see who's negative. I'm praying everyone in the league is negative, obviously. But if there happen to be any positive tests come back, they have a quarantine zone. Now, I believe every facility has a quarantine zone for their players. And how that would work, it would have to be quarantine. I don't know all the specifics yet, but I do know that is part of it. Now, that's for the rookies. I'm pretty sure the same thing is going to be for the vets that are coming in. They're supposed to report on the 28th. So I'm pretty sure they'll probably get there the 26th, get tested, probably stay quarantined for right there until they get their results back. And hopefully we have everybody good to go for camp. Now, there's a debate, a negotiation going on between the NFL and the NFL Players Association. Now, obviously, they're trying to work out some kinks, work out here and there. There was a little confusion about whether the NFL offered 0 preseason games or did they not. Well, the NFLPA came out and addressed that, and they said never did the NFL offer no preseason games. Now, earlier in the year, the NFL came out and said, we're going to shorten the preseason. Instead of having 4 games, everyone is going to be having 2 games. Okay, so the Colts' first preseason game would have been against Philadelphia. And their last preseason game would have been against Cincinnati. But those 2 are out. And the ones that the NFL are going with are weeks 2 and 3. Okay, they're going to be going with those 2 games. So that will be Washington, whoever mascot they choose, it will be Washington and Buffalo. That's who I know for sure. Okay? Now, if the NFL happens to take some preseason games out, I honestly think, it's kind of a good, a good thing maybe, because it shortens the risk of exposure to COVID. There's a lower risk of everybody getting infected, spreading it out between organizations. Honestly, on a safety wise, I find it better. But as of right now, I think it's going to continue. I think we're going to have 2 games in the preseason. So there's also another thing being negotiated within this negotiation. And it's an opt-out. The NFL is still trying to get this stuff worked out, but from my understanding, if a player wants to opt out to health reasons, they can do that. But on the NFL side, if a player happens to opt out, they cannot renegotiate their contract, which means, if you're in line for if they're in line for a big payday, say Quentin Nelson, say if Quentin Nelson were to, opt out, he can't hold out and force a renegotiation on his contract to get an extension. That can't happen. I believe Ian Rappaport called it an opt-out and hold-out. That the NFL is trying to avoid that, which is smart. If you're opting out, you're choosing to not play, but you still want to get paid and get your money. The NFL doesn't want to do that. And kind of like a Darius Leonard. We know he's coming into year 3, maybe if he opted out this season, but he wants to renegotiate. That can't happen. So that's another thing that the NFL is working on. Those are truly all the big points that I have for the changes. As for preseason, the NFL Players Association wants 21 days of strength and conditioning, which kind of makes sense because, as much as these guys have knowledge in working out, obviously, but there's nothing like getting in the gym with your teammates, getting on an actual field with your coaches, your teammates, and getting that work in, pushing each other. There's just nothing like it. So the NFL Players Association want that 21 days. They obviously want some off days in between there. That's all the stuff they're trying to work out. So that's on, I guess you could say the economic side of things. Getting into the Colts side of things, okay? In this one, I'm going to talk about how, the preseason can hurt these bubble guys. Because a shortened preseason means that you're not getting all the live reps against someone else like you would, especially for the bubble and rookie guys. So guys like an Isaiah Rodgers, maybe a TJ Carey, a Desmond Patman, a Marcus Johnson, Reese Fountain, a Danny Pinter. These guys, Al-Qadim Muhammad, Kendall Coleman, these guys, it doesn't work out. I hate to say it. I hate to even, say that they have a disadvantage, but they do have a disadvantage because you're taking 2 games away. Obviously, the 4th game was going to be, I guess you could say, that last game that rookies get to play, because that's where all of the backups play, and that's where the most time in a game happens to where you can show your skills. So I think it's at a disadvantage. Obviously, some guys are going to benefit because the starters before them will not play. In these 2 games, obviously, Phillip Rivers doesn't play preseason. He just doesn't. So we're going to see Jacoby Brissette, we're going to see Jacob Eason, and we're going to see Chad Kelly. Guys like Anthony Costanzo, I don't really, envision him playing. I don't envision Justin Houston playing. I probably don't even envision DeForest Buckner playing. I mean, maybe you want to protect him at all costs. Obviously, he's the biggest acquisition you've had in the last, 5 years or so? The biggest acquisition. You want to protect him. He has a big responsibility on this defense. Maybe guys like an Xavier Rhodes, a Kenny Moore, just to protect these guys, man. Protect them from injury. That's a pro of it. I believe I talked about it on the Colts Brawl podcast with Cody. But I'm talking about these guys that are, like a Robert Windsor. These guys, they're at a disadvantage. I really hate to say it. Now, it is good that they're getting in training camp. Now, to get into training camp, sorry guys if I seem all over the place. I have been out of it for a month, so I'm trying my best. I just want to make that quick, I guess, apology. Okay, I'm sorry if I seem all over the place. But with these rookies, they're going to have to earn it in practice. They're going to have to. I know these preseason games are important, and the coaches are going to watch this film twice as much as they would regularly. So it's going to be big. Now, in place of these missed out preseason games, now this is my opinion. This isn't no news I've heard. I don't have sources telling me that this is what's going to happen. But I think, obviously, the Colts and other organizations, other teams, are going to have scrimmages in place of these preseason games. I'm pretty sure, that's probably how I would do it. That's how I envision the Colts doing it. It's going to be important. First thing getting out of this training camp is going to be health, obviously. The Colts haven't had a good, track record of being healthy. Hopefully that changes on the positive note in 2020. And I think if the Colts really wanted to, I know the 55-man roster was extended. It used to be 53, now it's 55. If the Colts wanted to, they could do many scrimmages. 2 scrimmages a week, maybe. I highly doubt that. But that's my opinion in it. Okay? So I believe that's probably it for that. I don't really have much else on the changes to the preseason or anything. Still nothing on if fans are going to be able to attend. Still nothing on that. Only immediate media are going to be allowed into training camp. So I know I've talked about going up there to training camp with Cody, with Justin from the Brawl. It just didn't work out this year, guys. It didn't work out this year. They're not really allowing extras in there. So, unfortunately, can't make it this year. Now, the next thing I want to get to is a series of position previews leading up to the regular season. Now, today's first position is obviously going to be the quarterback position. Okay? The quarterback position. Getting into it, starting, the Colts have some talent in the quarterback room. Some call it a unique situation because there's a lot of money put into that quarterback room. There's a lot of, resources put into that quarterback room. So I think it's important for Chris Ballard to have an answer immediately. Either that's Phillip Rivers, even next year after Phillip Rivers is gone, which I think he will be. It's going to be important for Chris Ballard because, I'm going to echo something that Kevin Bowen said. It's time to prove it. Chris Ballard came out and said it's not about one guy. Now, this is Kevin Bowen saying it. I'm not taking credit for this. It's not about one guy, but in 1 or 2 years, it's shown that one guy missing is making a huge difference on this franchise. So it is very important for Chris Ballard to find this answer. Hopefully, we all think he found it. A stopgap with Phillip Rivers, a draft pick in Jacob Eason. Hopefully. Now, I'm not going to entertain that discussion of Dak Prescott. I know people have come out. I know sports bettors have come out and said Colts are a favorite to sign him next year. I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that. He's a Cowboy this year. I'll talk about him when he hits free agency. But right now, he's got the star on his helmet. It's not the horseshoe. So, therefore, I don't need to talk about him. Starting with Phillip Rivers, obviously, he's going to be practicing. We won't see him in the preseason. We all suspect him to be the starter. Now, for Phillip Rivers, last year, it was an up and down, mostly down season. 4,615 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 88.5 rating, and 20 interceptions. Now, to his credit, his team last year was not that great. He was having to do a little bit extra for his team. And, I mean, you can't deny that he didn't help his team out much. But, I've been skeptical about this, guys. I know I was a little bit excited when we first signed him. But as I'm thinking about it more and more, guys, I honestly don't know. how it's going to work out for Phillip in Indy. I know he has all the pieces to not succeed. He has all the pieces to not succeed. He has the relationship with the head coach. He knows this system, this offensive system behind like the back of his hand. He has the offensive line. He has T.Y. Hilton. Michael Pittman Jr., although we don't know what he's going to be yet. He has a Paris Campbell who did struggle with injuries, but I think he's going to bounce back in a big way. I love Zach Pascal. He has the running backs. He is not at any shortage in the running back room. He has the running backs. Okay, we would love to think he has the strong defense, which I think he does. He doesn't have an excuse as of right now, he has no excuse to not succeed this year. He has no excuse. I am laying it on the table now. He has no excuse, nor do I want to hear any excuse for why he's not succeeding. As long as it's not injuries, everyone is healthy, and he's just not getting it done, there is no excuse for him in 2020. It's going to be important because he can't be throwing interceptions, putting the defense on the field time and time again. Okay? Now, obviously, we all know about Phillip Rivers. We expect him to be the starter. So that's my thing on Phillip Rivers. It's going to be important. I think to help him the best, it's going to be about quick passes, quick things. Okay? It's going to be about that. I know we have the strong defense, but why even, entertain the idea of him standing back there long trying to get him to find the right deep ball? Okay? So I am going to try, if I was Frank Reich, I'm going to try and get some quick passes in. Okay, get some quick passes in. That's, I think, the best way to help a guy like Phillip Rivers, because he has the weapons, man, like I just said. And I didn't even mention Nyheim Hines, who's a running back hybrid. He can line up at wide receiver. He can line up at running back. He is the Austin Eckler of 2019 for Phillip Rivers. Nyheim Hines should have a big year. He should. Now, that could also go to Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack coming out of the backfield. That can happen. So, for Phillip Rivers, he has everything in front of him to succeed. Moving on here to Jacoby Brissette. I feel a little bit sorry for him because he did bust his tail. He did compete. He did try his best last year. And, sometimes a reality in the NFL, your best is not always the best for the team. And last year, just going over his stats, 2,942 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 88-point rating. Just an 88 rating in general for him. Now, some people will say, oh, well, that's only 0.5 below Phillip Rivers. But, you just look at the stats, guys. Obviously, Jacoby Brissette smoked him in interceptions in having 14 less, I believe. But he had almost 2,000 yards less than Phillip Rivers. I know he had the injury against Pittsburgh and missed Miami, but, man, there were a lot of things. We all know what happened, guys. He, reading the field wasn't, in my mind, the strongest suit for him. Checking out of bad plays at the line of scrimmage wasn't a strength for him. And I still want to see him grow and develop, although I'm not sure how much more developing he can do. When it comes to the quarterback position, you are what you are. The first couple of years we'll give it to you, but now it's time to show who you are, and that's what it's been. I know people want to say, oh, look at Peyton Manning's rookie year compared to his entire career. That was his rookie year. Jacoby Brissette, he's had 2 years to start. 2 years. And 2017 was better than 2019. In 2019, there was just a lot missing. And I said it before on the podcast that I expect a fiery Jacoby Brissette to come into training camp and battle for that starting spot to try and pry it away from Phillip Rivers. However he's been working, because we haven't heard a whole lot from Jacoby this offseason. However he wants to work, whether he's been working with with Jacob Eason, whether he's been working with Frank Reich, he's been digging deeper and deeper into his cardio, into his pocket movement, all of that. If he's been digging much harder into film, I expect a big outcome for Jacoby Brissette. And when I say outcome, I mean a presentation at training camp. He's gonna be more intense. He's gonna be more, enthusiastic. He has got to do that if he wants to save his job. Because in my mind, I don't know if I see him in a Colts uniform either in 2021. I don't. Even if he wants to return to compete for the quarterback spot with Jacob Eason in 2021, he's in training camp is his biggest spot to try and earn a roster spot in the future, to earn another contract in the future. That's going to be the biggest thing for me for Jacoby Brissette. That's the biggest thing. That's what it's going to be about. That is what it's going to be about. So for him, obviously he's going to be working with some of these backups, obviously in training camp. I do envision him probably getting some starting reps because obviously he's going to be the starter in preseason. And in the preseason games, I want to see a little bit more pocket movement. I want to see much better pocket movement. I want to see his pre-snap presence. I want to see how he's able to check out of these. I want that to be an emphasis on his rebuilding in 2020. That's why you have coaches. That's why you have these guys that come in and say, look, we did the homework. And I think you struggled here. I think you struggled there. And coming into training camp, not that he already has been working in the offseason, but in training camp, it's got to come full circle. It has got to come first full circle because I believe Jacoby Brissette is going to be playing for his job in the NFL. I personally believe that. I do. So my point about Jacoby Brissette is I'm expecting a fiery training camp from him. I'm expecting him to be more intense, and I think he's going to give Phillip Rivers a run for his money. Moving on here, two more guys. Jacob Eason. Jacob Eason, our 4th round pick. A lot of people would love to believe he is the franchise quarterback of the future, but obviously there's some things to work with. He will not play in 2020, or at least we don't expect him to play. I've entertained the idea somewhat of him taking the job in training camp. I've entertained that idea. If he can come out, he's picked up this playbook, he has picked up everyone's job, and he just flat out annihilates the competition. He is putting on a show in preseason. He's putting on a show in training camp. He's stealing reps away from Jacoby. And then after that, he steals reps away from Phillip Rivers. And if these scrimmages go on like I think they will go on, like I've stated previously, is he going to ball out in that preseason? Is he going to do that? That's the biggest thing for him. Now, obviously, from a developmental stage, which we all expect, it's just going to be about getting your reps in. Getting familiar with your offensive line. Getting familiar with your running backs. Getting familiar with your wide receivers. I know playing 7-on-7 is important. You're already building a chemistry. But there's just something about playing behind an offensive line. Playing against some secondary guys. And that's what it's got to be. Just like that connection was between Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton. Peyton Manning and Reggie Wayne. Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison. They have to build that connection against live reps against actual opponents. Whether if that's Kenny Moore or that's Tre'Davious White from Buffalo. That's what it's going to be about for Jacob Eason. I want to see how he develops his pocket presence. Obviously, he has the strength. He has the best arm of this draft class in his arsenal. But sometimes standing back there, he was like a deer in headlights. Just no pocket movement at all. I definitely think he can improve that. And if he can improve that pocket presence, guys, I truly see Jacob Eason being the franchise player of this organization. Now, obviously, I don't want to hype him up too much, give people false hope or anything. I know we all want to exalt him as the future. But the bottom line is you got to come in, you got to show out, you got to earn your reps, and you got to win. You have to. The only way he's going to play is if he comes in and takes it. That's the only way. For me, that's the only way. That's the only way I see fit for Jacob. I love the arm. I love the accuracy. But that footwork, that pocket presence, it's going to have to improve. It's going to have to. I know he's got that gunslinger mentality, but it can't always be a gunslinger. I know everybody wants to be Patrick Mahomes. But people don't realize or don't even know that Patrick Mahomes was playing a lot of baseball growing up and even played some baseball in college. And he has that type of arm, because a baseball arm is somewhat different from a football arm. And he has both, which makes him that much more incredible. I know everybody, the standards is Patrick Mahomes. But for Jacob, he doesn't need to come into training camp and throwing all kinds of interceptions. He doesn't need to do that. He needs to take his time, work on his craft. Don't force too much. Know what your role is. Know what your players, your teammates' roles are. That's going to be the biggest thing. As a rookie, I feel like the biggest thing coaches look for is your leadership, your discipline. And I think as soon as you come into training camp, I think that's what Frank Reich and Chris Ballard are going to be looking for. His leadership and his discipline. And that's what it's going to be about for Jacob Eason. I don't know why I keep getting these two guys confused. But that's what it's going to be about. Moving on here to kind of a fan favorite. Moving on to Chad Kelly here. I know a lot of people like him. I know a lot of people wanted to see him last year. I know a lot of people wanted him to have a fair shot at the quarterback spot this year. But guys, I get it. He's fast. I get it. But he had a shot in Denver. He didn't prove anything. He barely got into Indianapolis. And it's going to be about earning your stripes, guys. That's what it's going to be about. Now, me personally, I fully expect Chad Kelly to be on the practice squad while the Colts carry the three other quarterbacks on. I fully expect him to be on the practice squad. That's just the way I see fit. I think Chad Kelly can be a good backup for the Colts. I definitely think he can. But I just see that opportunity coming in 2021. As of right now, Jacob Eason is the only guy that's going to be under contract. Now, as long as Chad Kelly is doing what he needs to do in training camp, he's doing what he needs to do for the scout team on the practice squad, in season, in practice, then I don't see why Chris Ballard wouldn't re-sign him and give him a fair shot at a backup role in 2021. That's going to be the biggest thing. He's done a good job staying out of trouble. He's done a great job. That's good. But you also got to have some skill in the football world. And I think he does have some skill, which is why he is in the NFL. Which is why Chris Ballard, who was just named the most trustworthy GM in the NFL and highly regarded as the best talent evaluator. Let's not forget that. That was voted on by all agents of the NFL. I'm just pointing that out there. If Chris Ballard still has Chad Kelly on his roster, then obviously he believes in him in the future as a backup or whatever the case may be. Okay? That I just can't come into training camp expecting big things for Kelly. I can't do that. I just can't. Now, obviously, there's going to be those preseason games. Obviously, I want to see what he's got to offer. He showed some good stuff in last year's preseason. But, I mean, I want to see if he can face some better competition. I want to see if he'll face the second stringers instead of the fourth stringers. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at with Chad Kelly. Do what you're supposed to do and get yourself to the practice squad. Do what you need to do in the season. Do what you need to do for the scout team. Get yourself back here in 2021. Because I don't think we're really going to be talking about Chad Kelly at all if he returns in 2021. That's just the way I see it. So moving on here, guys. This is going to be, my last thing. I want to start this before we even start training camp, okay? And that is my way early playoff predictions for both conferences. That is what it's going to be, okay? I want to do this before, get my predictions out there, and then in mid-season, at the end of the season, I want to come back to it and say, wow, this is where I was wrong. This is where I had a pretty good idea. So, obviously, I want to do that for you guys. I want to add some excitement to the show. I want to, get you guys to hear what I think is going to go on this season. So, obviously, I'm going to start in the NFC first. And this is going to be kind of quick. At number 1 seed, it was kind of tough to figure out who I wanted to go with. But in the end, I ended up going with New Orleans. I think their defense is going to be strong. I really like that guy, Chauncey Johnson Jr., I believe that's his name, from Florida, the second-year safety. I really like him. I think he's going to be a big player for their secondary. He's going to elevate their secondary. And I really think the Saints, my brother's a Saints fan, and it seems like the Saints have been having home field advantage for the longest time, but don't do anything with it. And I think this is Drew Brees' last year, and he needs to do something. So I'm going with New Orleans. Number 2 seed, I'm going with Philadelphia. Guys, I just, when I look at this Philadelphia team, you're bringing back Deshaun Jackson is returning, okay? You got Alshon Jeffrey. You just drafted Jalen Reagor. Carson Wentz. You got a viable backup behind him in Jalen Hurts. And then that defense. Malik Jackson, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Brandon Graham. I mean, you talk about one of the best, if not the best, defensive line in football. That defense should be big time. And that's why I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. I like that team a lot. I really do. I like their structure. At the number 3 seed, I'm going with San Francisco. They still have some of the best pass rushers. They still have a good defense. Hopefully Jimmy Garoppolo, he'll come back, get some success. Kyle Shanahan is still a great offensive mind. And I think they pick up right where they left off. At the number 4 seed, which is the last division winner, I'm going to go with Minnesota Vikings. I think they're going to be the strongest team of that division. I think Green Bay is going to have a rocky year. Detroit is going to suck. Chicago, they'll be competitive, but I think they fall short of the division title. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. I like their team. I like the changes they've brought in. I like the draft picks they've brought in. Those guys, Justin Jefferson, he's going to be a playmaker for this team. He is. Now with the 5th seed, I am going to go with Seattle. I believe in Russell Wilson as long as he plays this season. I'm going to go with Seattle, which I think Russell Wilson will play. At the number 6 seed, I know I said they might struggle, but I think they can still get some wins in and sneak into the playoffs. The Green Bay Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers is still one of the better quarterbacks in the league. They got him some help in the wide receiver game. So I think they have a real shot at being good. I do think that, but I can't say they're better than Minnesota. In the last seed, the number 7 seed of the NFC, I'm going with Arizona. Kyler Murray already had a really good rookie season, but you got him some help on the offensive line. You have Larry Fitzgerald, you have Christian Kirk, Andy Isabella, and you just brought in DeAndre Hopkins, a top 3 wide receiver in this league. You have Kenyon Drake. On offense, they're set. On defense, I like the defense, but I think the offense is going to be the biggest thing as to why Arizona is going to make the playoffs. Now going to the AFC. Now this is where y'all are wanting to figure out who I got in. So obviously number 1 is obvious. Number 1 and 2 is probably obvious. Number 1, I'm going with Kansas City. Obviously they just got some playmakers. They got the best quarterback in the league. I'm going with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid at the number 1 seed. Baltimore is my number 2 seed. Lamar Jackson, that defense is getting tougher. Lamar Jackson is just an X factor. He's another wide receiver running back at the quarterback position, and he's just that much of a difference maker. And I expect them to have the number 2 seed. At the number 3 seed, I'm going to go with Buffalo. I think, they've lived in the purgatory of the NFL for the longest time now. They're adding some talent. They're adding some defensive talent, adding some offensive talent. I like what they're doing in Buffalo. I think they win that division over New England, and I'm going to go with Buffalo. I like that team. I like that defensive line. So I'm going with them with the number 3 seed. The number 4 seed is going to be the winner of our AFC South. And I am going to go with the Tennessee Titans. Let me explain why. I think Mike Vrabel is a very good football coach. To protect the football, I probably would go with Ryan Tannehill over Phillip Rivers. They've proven it. They just went to the AFC Championship game. Their defense is strong. Their offensive line is good. And I really like A.J. Brown. Now, I don't like the Titans, but they've proven it. They just went to the AFC Championship game. And I am expecting them to build on that, and I'm expecting them to win the division. I'm going to go with Tennessee at the number 4 spot. At the number 5th seed, the 5th seed in the AFC playoffs, I am going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think since Big Ben is going to return, I think the offense is going to have a much better groove than what it had with Mason Rudolph, because their defense is obviously going to be strong. Minkah Fitzpatrick was a real game changer for them last year, almost snuck into the playoffs. And adding Big Ben to the equation, that's going to be big. That's going to be really big for them. And I think given the talent on that team, Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches in the NFL, I think they get in. They're not going to be stronger than Baltimore. They're not going to beat Baltimore, but I think they will get into the playoffs at the 5th seed. The number 6 seed in the AFC playoffs, I am going with our Indianapolis Colts. Now, why am I going with Tennessee over Indianapolis? Look, guys, as Colts fans, obviously we want to root them on. We want to put them in the Super Bowl. But for me, guys, I've even said it before on this show that I'm done overhyping. I'm done. Last year was the last straw of going with them every single time. It was the last straw. This is a sports show. I'm coming up here to give you football analysis, to give you what I see, to give you what I think. I'm not going to come up here and say Colts are winning the Super Bowl. Colts are having 12 Pro Bowlers. Phillip Rivers is going to light it up. He's going to be MVP. I'm done doing that. I am done doing that. It's time for the Colts to prove it. Tennessee has proven more to me than Indianapolis has. The Colts have dropped games against teams they never should have dropped them to. And then they're beating teams who they probably shouldn't even beat. I don't know what Colts team we're going to get week in and week out. So I'm not going to pick Indianapolis to win the division. I think that should go to a team that's much more deserving, that has proven it, and that I think might be stronger. Now, obviously, I think, I hope the Colts get it. I hope the Colts get it. But I'm going with them at number 6 because I don't know what kind of Phillip Rivers we're going to get. Hopefully these injuries do not catch up to us, man. I really hope so. There's a couple of questions to this team that we have to figure out. And because of those, I feel like there's more questions than I see answers. Quarterback position, are the wide receivers going to step up? Is Justin Houston going to have another strong year? Is Ben Banogu, Tyquan Lewis, Kamoko Toure going to step up? Is Xavier Rhodes going to be good? Malik Hooker, where is he at? There's too many questions, guys. Too many questions. So I'm going to go with Indianapolis. I think with the talent they have on the roster is good enough for them to get into the playoffs, which is why I put them at the number 6 seed. So at the number 7 seed, just sneaking into the playoffs over the Cleveland Browns, I am going to have the New England Patriots. I know, guys, I hate to put them in there, but I believe in Cam Newton. I like Cam Newton. I think he can be over these injuries, and I think he can be a real X factor for that offense, because Tom Brady wasn't able to run, but Cam Newton can. That is a difference maker that Cam Newton brings to the New England Patriots. Defense is going to be strong, I think. They had some losses, but losing Kyle Van Noy was big. But I think, Bill Belichick is still the best coach in the league. I am going to roll the dice on New England. I wanted to go with Cleveland, but I couldn't choose Cleveland's coach over Bill Belichick. I couldn't. I can't. So I'm going with New England. Now, some questions. Some of you are asking, well, where do you have Jacksonville? I have them at the bottom. I think they'll draft number 1 overall next year. In the NFC, Tampa Bay and Dallas, obviously. Look, I'll start off with Dallas. Now, I'm not trying to sound like Stephen A. Smith, but for some reason, the Cowboys just can't get it done. They can't. They have every reason to not make the playoffs. They have the firepower. They have the offensive line. I'd like to think they have the defense, although that was a poor showing from them last year. Dontari Poe, Jerry McCoy, they brought them in at the end of their prime, out of their prime, into their 30s already. I don't know what they're going to be like, guys. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid this year. I'm not doing any of that. I don't think they'll be better than Philadelphia. And also, I think they miss it because the NFC is very strong. Very strong. I haven't discussed records yet, but the NFC is strong. I think Arizona beats Dallas, and I think that would be a game tiebreaker for Arizona getting into the playoffs. Now with Tampa Bay, they are this year's media darling. They are this year's media darling. Last year it was Cleveland. They got Odell. They got Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield, Olivier Vernon, Myles Garrett, yada, yada, yada. And they had nothing to show for it. Tampa Bay, look, like I said, on offense, they are stacked. On defense, maybe Todd Bowles can get that defense figured out. But I'm going with the simple fact that I think that they are this year's media darling. I just don't see them making the playoffs. I just don't. I think they'll drop a few games they're probably not supposed to drop. The NFC was harder to discuss. It was harder to choose than it was the AFC. I'll say that right now. There were some tough decisions. But I will say this is probably subject to change. But I think I'm pretty sold on this playoffs, on these playoff rankings right now. So, guys, I believe that will be it for the show. If you're listening on YouTube, guys, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please comment down below what you think. And if you're listening on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, please subscribe to my show as well. Leave a rating. I would really appreciate it, guys. Most importantly, man, football is back. Football's in the air. I'm happy. This year has not been the greatest, but guys, I'm just hoping there's some positive out of this. I'm just praying that you guys stay safe. NBA will be safe. NFL will be safe. College football will be safe. I'm just praying, guys. Prayer, prayer, prayer. So if there is nothing else, I don't have anything on my end. So guys, again, thank you for tuning in. Stay blessed, and I will see you next week.
Won't you set me free? Pray this on me. Pray this on me. I got them shackles off my feet, yeah, yeah.